Hey Alex, do
Yeah,
you want to hear a joke?
lay it on me.
All right. So there's this ship, right? And it's a warship. And there's this captain, obviously. All ships need captains. And the captain is manning the helm, and his first mate says, "Captain, enemy ship spotted on the horizon." And the captain says, "Very good. Bring me my red shirt." And the first mate says, "Very well," and sends for the captain's red shirt. The ships engage. The battle is fierce, but the day is won. And they all go to bed victorious. The next day, they're sailing again, and first mate turns to the captain and says, "Captain, two enemy ships spotted on the horizon." The captain says, "Ah, yes, okay, bring me my red shirt." First mate sends for his red shirt. Off he goes, gets him his red shirt. They have a battle. It's a close one, but the men pull through and they win another day. That night at dinner, the first mate's sitting down by the captain. He says, "Captain, I've got to ask you. Every time we fight another ship, you ask for your red shirt." The captain says, "Yes, what of it?" The first mate says, "Why do you ask for your red shirt?" The captain says, "Ah, yes, of course. Well, you see, I'm concerned that if I were to be wounded in battle, the men would stop fighting and come take care of me instead of focusing on the battle. I want them to stay focused and not concerned over my welfare. So I wear a red shirt so they can't see it if I'm bleeding." And the first mate thinks, "That's very honorable." And the next day, they get up. Captain's manning the helm again, and the first mate says, "Captain, 20 enemy ships spotted on the horizon." And he says, "Ah, yes, bring me my brown pants."
I love it in this context because it adds like a second level to the red shirt thing. So it's all a joke. And with that hilarious entry, welcome to this month's episode of the 800s, our final one of 2025, the forever and gone in a blink year.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Alex, and you just heard from my hilarious co host, Adam. And as always, thank you to the man making it happen behind the scenes, Alan.
Thanks, Alan.
Yeah. Let's hope he's
Let's
not
talk.
wearing his brown pants.
We are the DM's table. If you'd like to know more about us, hit us up at or check our website out at dmstable.com. Otherwise, there's a couple of links below the video. Feel free to check those out, and we'll get to the more serious plugs after the show. Alex, what are we here to talk about tonight?
All right, so this month on the 800s, we'll be discussing our holy crit. So we'll be discussing our
Holy crit!
no, sorry, my entire I have these usually written out and it was deleted, but I realized I just needed to refresh the page because I had two versions of it up before. Anyways, this month in the 800s, we'll be discussing our last book for 2025, Redshirts by John Scalzi. Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Intrepid. Its mission? To explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly defy the narrative that is killing off all the red shirts.
Very nice, very nice. This is your first time joining us. First off, welcome. Second off, we are a discussion show, so feel free to chime in the chat with any thoughts you have on the topic we are discussing at hand. And if you have anything you would like to discuss, feel free to throw it in chat at any time. Alex or myself will pose a new topic every so often. And if you guys have something you want to talk about, we'll be sure to grab that and throw it up for discussion. It's pretty much how our show works.
And as always, this is a show that covers adult themes and topics, so bring kids around at your own discretion. We try not to swear too much, but it fucking happens sometimes. Uh,
God
also,
damn it, Alex!
man, I can tell it's the end of the year. We're going a little bonkers. Um, that said, we are trying to create a fun, supportive community over here at DM's Table where everyone can feel free to nerd out, geek out, and otherwise out, whatever they're in love with or passionate about without any fear of reprisal or judgment. So, in sum, be nice or fuck off, Scotty.
Scotty.
I did the chest tattoo.
All right, with that, let's get the conversation flowing. Alex, chat. What were your first impressions of Redshirts?
So having read like another Scalzi book this year, right off the bat, he has a very particular voice, and not just because Will Wheaton also read the other audiobook, but like the way he writes has a very particular cadence to it, and when you're used to it, it's kind of a good thing because it kind of just lets you settle into like I kind of know what I'm getting myself into, and what I'm waiting for is like how it's going to be used. So I didn't feel like I had to adjust very much. So I felt like really in it from the get go, trying to guess like what's the wrinkle, you know? And it pretty early on, you can tell something's off. So I kind of felt very at home with like Doll's perspective of like something fucky's going on, just right from the beginning. And I kind of like that in this book it's a very easy read, but at the same time it's engaging and has enough humor that like it just right from the beginning, you're getting into something a little bit wacky that's going to have a little depth to it, and I never really felt like I had to doubt that or figure out what it was because I kind of trusted it to come to me. And I think that says a lot about creating a certain voice for yourself as an author. So that was my first impression of it. And how about you,
Yeah.
Adam?
Yeah, it starts out with a very subtle hint of the meta-ness to come,
Hmm.
right? It doesn't jump right into this is a TV show, but kind of hints at it where it's like the narrative changes on a whim kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Uh, and obviously like the premise was I knew what the premise was before starting the book. So that kind of leads you on, but entertaining start, and you don't really know where it's gonna go, starting off with the sci-fi angle of the random red shirt who's about to die and then dies a horrible death. And um yeah, I was excited. It was immersive from the get-go, and I was excited to see where we went.
Mhm. Seems like VS Drake agrees, and they said that they like the opening build up, and that John's efficient with his words, so the beginning went pretty quick in this book. I agree. Scalzi does a good job of kind of like knowing the world that he's building around because I think he's rightfully assuming that most people that are reading this are going to know how to fill in the gaps, and only fills in just enough so that if you're not deeply intimately familiar with Star Trek, you at least have a feel for what's going on, you know? And
Yeah.
but kind of lets you fill in the gaps on your own because it's built off of tropes, right? And it just kind of gives a cursory glance into what those look like if they are discordant with the world around you normally, which, like VS Drake says, is a good way of getting to the meat of character building and unveiling the conflict, like right from the get go, rather than he didn't have to do that much world building, and he was very efficient in setting up the world building so that he could get to the points that really were the focus of this book.
Yeah. An efficient start to get to the
Mhm.
plot that we know is coming.
All right. So I wanted to ask, which of the narrative choices was the most. I'm trying to figure out how to word this exactly because I have like a question in my mind, but it's still kind of forming ish. Which of the narrative tropes that we end up becoming unveiled stood out to you as the most annoying or um, I'm trying to think about again. I'm lost on the exact word, but like annoying isn't the right word exactly, but the one that's I guess that just stood out the most to you as being like that's cheesy or annoying or like stood out in a bad way, I guess. Like if you had been
Hmm.
on that ship, like you're like, what the hell is this? So or you it doesn't even have to be a trope
Yeah,
necessarily, but
it's gotta be the box, right? The
yeah.
magic box of solutions.
And what about it made it like, just like I get it because I had the same
It's
feeling, but like
yeah.
what about it?
It's too fourth wall breaking, right? Like nobody can see the box and be like, "This is reality."
Uh, yeah, I'd have to say that more or less was the one I was thinking of. The other one is, well, I think it's specifically the fact that the more main character a one of the bridge crew was, the less likely people were to survive around them, as if that's how you create tension for the main character. You know?
Yeah.
Uh,
Just a sec. Just a sec.
okay. Not entirely sure what we're waiting on, but
My uninvited guest decided to move on, so I squished him.
all right. Uh, was he headed for one of the distribution holds or whatever where that guy was hiding?
He was trying to flee strategically across my keyboard.
Yeah.
Dare he? No. Where were we?
Was he wearing a red shirt?
Oh, it's
But
red now.
anywho, back to sorry, I just saw Via's drink put in the chat. Jenkins. But yeah, so I think other than the box, which for your point hit it the nail on the head with that was again the fact that like the more important a character was to the story, the less likely you were to survive around them, for whatever reason. A- As if that
because the narrative is paying attention to them.
well, yeah, and you can't be distracting from them, which is again a lazy way to create tension for these characters. And I think it's the first time when they start getting into the meta commentary where I was just like, you know what? I get it. I get why they think these people suck at their jobs, like the i.e. the writers of the television show that become the real people later on, or in
Yeah.
another universe, however that works. But yeah, those are the ones that stood out to me. It doesn't
Uh
look like chat has a specific take on that. So did you have a question? Otherwise, I can load up another one.
yeah, I've got a topic for you.
All right.
So the codas at the end, first, second, and third person codas. Um, how do you think those lent to the story, or do you feel like they were out of place?
Um, I think some of them lent themselves to it and others made it feel a bit disjointed. I think as a whole it felt disjointed just because some of them were just like, and they all die, but not really. Um, but just kidding for her. Um, I think they kind of felt like more like an author's note, like separate from the story. I don't think they were bad inherently because Scalzi brings up the question of like when you become aware of your characters having lives of their own somehow, what would you do for them? And if that's the case, like if that's something that Scalzi felt the need to do, that makes more sense to me than as like an actual part of the story where he's just kind of reconciling with his own concept. So
Yeah,
in that way it was fine, but at the same time I was just like again, feels more like an author's note than a part of the actual story, and I'm fine with that because it kind of I don't know if there's a technicality in that premise of he needed to do it as a part of the story in order for it to manifest in a real way, because if you put it in an author's note, all of a sudden it's not going to happen, whatever, but yeah, it just felt like
yeah,
its own distinct thing that was just kind of Scalzi having been in it writing this book and was just like, all right, I need to reconcile with my own concept and do the thing.
do the thing.
You know, give these
Yeah,
characters a life I would be okay with like giving to my characters.
Via Strike says he thought it rounded out the story and they were not needed to read, but Scalzi might have needed it to reconcile the characters. I didn't mind them though. It was on brand and gave that feeling to me to wrap up the meta concept. Yeah, I agree with that. It to me it felt kind of like a book club conversation. Like
Yeah, a little bit.
what do you think would happen afterwards? Or how do you think the authors would handle knowing that now? And
Hmm.
like it felt like the story was over and we were having a conversation afterwards, which
Yeah.
personally I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just like you said, it does feel more like an afterwards discussion or like it was a wrap up, like VS Drake said, of this interesting concept and being like, you know what, if this were true, let's sit in it for a little bit and see what it would be like to like really play this out.
yeah, I liked the one um where the author, or not the author, the writer was trying to get over the writer's block. I thought that was pretty cool. The second perspective one was very, very strange, strangely written.
I mean, it kind of had to be though, really, at least because how do you give it a perspective that is both meta and in the story, right? It's kind of both.
Yeah,
And, like,
and like there's a
it's meta on meta, but not fully outside of the story yet, you know? There's so many layers to this, and it's kinda stuck somewhere in the top middle, but not quite all the way out there.
yeah, and there's a reason why authors just don't write in second perspective. It comes
Yeah.
across as weird, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, unless you build the whole book around that perspective, and it has to take some very specific narrative adjustments to make it work, and that, you know, having it, like, come out of nowhere does feel well, I guess not out of nowhere, but, you know, having it so different from the rest of the way that the story was written, yes, it does feel a bit weird. Via Strike says they really like the wife's reactions to things like she mourned this person she never knew. I agree. That was actually my favorite, was taking that stuff like from Jenkins to the analog for his wife. Like that was, it makes you wonder, like, what would you do if somebody showed up and was just like laid this whole other life lived by somebody who was both you and not you at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah, that
think
is
most people would be
interesting.
weirded the fuck out, but like to really take that in, I think was a surprisingly powerful moment to put in there.
Yeah. Definitely definitely was out of place with the overall mood of the book, but
I
it
don't
was
think
an
it was.
interesting read.
I don't think it was necessarily fully out of place. We get a couple other moments like that, but yeah, I think that's the moment where I felt the most connection between the two worlds, weirdly enough, you know?
Yeah.
Like they do a whole body time dimension swap between their writer's son and their crewmate, and none of that hit as hard as the wife is like the analog to Jenkins' wife. And so in that way it did actually really fit with the story. It's just because it's only one of like however many perspectives and codas that we get at the end. Like, I would have been fine if that were the only one that happened, honestly, but I get why it wasn't.
What did you think of that moment when uh Jenkins walks into the studio as the comatose kid, or not Jenkins, whoever the guy was
Oh,
who was the character of the coma kid, and
oh.
the writer was like, "Oh my god, my son, he's alive, he's walking around."
Uh, yeah, I'm trying to remember who that was because I know Hester, I think. It's Hester or Hector is what's in my head. But anyways, uh, I thought that was
Hester via Strix
ki-
says.
yeah. So it was Hester. Thank you. Uh, that moment didn't really hit as hard as I think I would expect to until we start kind of getting a little more context for it. Um, because up to that point, most of these characters feel well connected, kind of untethered from each other. There's still that disconnect of like how they affect each other, and it's not until later that you really start to see them blend together. And seeing that character there without context, and then like the first reaction they have to it is like, oh, we have a potential solution now, like here we can now do something for you if you do something for us, rather than it. One of the things that I think the a lot of these Star Trek-esque shows do is they try to show how they try to show the best of humanity juxtaposed with like the temptations of just living in the universe. And usually speaking, when you're confronted with situations like that, altruism kind of comes out as the reason why people do things. But I also get that that's not the reality most of the time. um so it kind of took a while for that to steep and really take on the importance of what it was, which is like, how do we connect these two disparate dimensions to each other in a way that's meaningful for both people? and it had to be through this comatose kid, which is weird and poignant at the same time, you know?
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's I think the moment where it's like, oh shit, like this is not just like you get the feeling, the opposite feeling of I think how you're supposed to feel about the characters in the story is like the future characters feel more real than the past characters just
Yeah.
because you're with them the whole time. I think that moment where like, oh shit, like the kid's in a coma is like the moment where the characters like really solidify in the story and have like their own motives and feelings and stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. I think that kind of much more succinctly wraps up what I was saying, which is it. I kind of like intellectually expected that moment to happen instantly, but you pointed out specifically that because we're with the other group, it takes a like that is the moment where it shifts. But for me, it took longer than I think I intellectually expected it to. But it's because, like you
Gotcha.
said, they weren't quite real yet, and that is the character that kind of makes it sink in. I mean, it's really hard not to dismiss got Kerensky's actor parallel because he's like a dick.
Yeah.
and and so it's not really until you see this guy's son in a coma that they start becoming real, and it does take a second to hit, but you're right. I think it is essential for caring about the interaction between these two groups on a fairly level playing field.
Yeah.
And the kid's name is Matt Paulson or Matthew Paulson.
Yeah. That sounds right.
Hey, I'm trusting you, VS Drake. I got this way back at the end of November, so it's been a little while. Um,
Yeah, same, same. It's hard to remember that far back, but
yeah, we all read
we're
it,
we're
but then we weren't feeling well for the actual read or the actual like original time.
and we're
Um,
enough with names as it is. So
all right. Slightly lighter note, well, or darker note as it may be. What did you think was the funniest or coolest way somebody died in this?
uh I'm laughing at VS Drake's latest comment. The wife's name was Henry. Trust me again, I freaking dare you.
I thought we were trying to build a community that lifts each other up.
Sure. Coolest death.
Coolest or
Um,
funniest or most standout death?
mm, gotta be the worm, the dune worms from the very beginning, the hot open, when the dude's all like cocky and like, listen here, motherfuckers, like you never told me this shit, like I'm supposed to know this. I'm just gonna leave. And they're all like, what are you doing? Oh, he should have known.
Yeah, that was a good one. I think my favorite, just because it's so dumb, is the like exploding head. Like he's got a bomb in his head. He didn't notice at all, but it's just so stupid. Like, like it doesn't make any sense at all. Like other than like we just needed this person to die because we didn't want to deal with the consequences of them being in this universe at all. Bye. So I saw that happened and I actually legitimately laughed out loud out of like I laughed and was like, "What?" Like, like, I actually out loud said, "What?" at that, which was really awkward because I was in the middle of work and
Sophia Strake says he loved how the characters comment that the writers are shit. I loved that too. I'm curious, do you think, barring disbelief that this could actually happen, do you think the characters would have realized what's going on if the writers were better?
Um, it depends. I think it's something that would have been much harder to notice if they had been better, but the fact of the matter is unless you are writing these characters to a T the way that they actually exist in real life, there's going to be moments where things feel a bit disjointed, and enough of those moments build up, and it's going to be a problem. Plus, I don't know too many of those space shows that don't have at least somebody who dies at some point. But usually speaking, it's because they didn't want to pay out how much the actor was owed, and so they nixed him. Or I do think it would be a lot harder for them to notice, but I think it probably would have happened eventually, unless just by happenstance they wrote these characters perfectly, which doesn't really seem feasible given the how this particular book was written.
Yeah, I think for me the things that stand out are that they note the reality breaking changes in their universe, like the
Mhm,
box, the fact that people tend to die around the important people, you know, the all of the floors that burn in space fights are always the same floors.
mhm. The fact that it only happens on that ship and never when anyone was stationed on another ship, and
Or
that
like the
any other ships that interacted with that ship that might have noticed it exploded.
or like that the narrative lets go of the main characters like mid script when they're like, and now we shall go to the battle for our lives. But
Yep,
like
and they have,
lunch
like, a
first
toy.
or
Well, and that's where, like, having a better writer might have been a little bit different if somebody actually tried to inhabit what a leader like that in a civilization like that might act like. But at the same time, most sci-fi, right? I think if it happened, it would be more of like a technical thing of like these characters actually understand the science that makes their world work. So the box is probably the best example of them noticing that something would be off. It wouldn't be the box, but it would be like somebody tapping on a screen and it would notice this like you just flushed the toilet and yet somehow you blew up this other ship, like something like that, where something technical would be overwritten for narrative in a way
yeah.
that like these clearly intelligent people would understand doesn't actually work. I think that's what would have done it rather than the deaths.
You know what would have been hilarious? It's like VS Drake said, commercial break, so freaking good. Popped in my head. It'd be hilarious if in those moments where the narrative lets go of the main characters, if they go like, man, I'm really craving a Coke right now. I've
I'm
got to
really
tell you, back on Earth, I test drove this minivan. It's great for the family. Seat 7, 5-star safety review. It's amazing. It just starts like
and then
rattling
someone's
off
like,
the end
"What's a van?"
of
I mean, they did but that's the thing is it would be something like that, right? Like if they did have
it.
to like sink into the commercial to some degree as well, they'd be like because they didn't know at least initially, they knew about internal combustion engines, but they didn't understand how they worked, and it took them a
Yeah.
second. But yeah, I think those
You're
are the
no
things I
longer
would
nurse.
say.
What are you talking about?
But yeah, VS Drake, it probably would be a lot closer to a Truman Show type of situation where, like, if there's good writing, it would be difficult to tell, but eventually the stuff would add up. Uh,
Yeah. All right, you got a topic? You want to talk about something?
um, I was going to ask, uh, between which of the between like the actors and their intrepid equivalents, which characters do you felt like made the most sense being like actor versus like which ones fit together the best as like an actor and a character, or the worst if you have some.
Ooh, ooh, that's tough. That's a tough question because I got to remember who's who. um, I liked the Colonel guy. I don't remember if he was a Colonel guy, but the Colonel guy who didn't have pants. Karinsky. Yeah, that's the guy. What V.S. Drake said.
So like what is about it that makes them feel so connected to you in a way that is narratively satisfying?
I liked how when they were both like outraged similarly when they were kidnapped, and they both got kidnapped. So it was pretty good too. The like the oh, he's my brother moments that they had while they were walking around and stuff. And
Yeah, I was gonna mention that one too, just because like it is so weird. It's such a weird moment, but it's so funny when he goes into the room with him. He's like, "Do you know what it's like to be around somebody who knows you that intimately?" And they're all just like, "What did you do?" They're like, "No, we talked. Jesus Christ!" I mean,
yeah, pillow talk. Yeah, that was pretty good.
yeah. But the other one that actually did stand out to me was um Matt and Hester. Is you've got a character that is like sidelined physically and one that's sidelined narratively, and how they both have this really truly important role to play, but it's because the characters in the story choose for them to have that role, like and lift them up out of obscurity or up out of a coma, as the case may be. I thought it was kind of like a neat bit to have these characters that seem like literal throwaway characters. I mean, that's the whole point of a red shirt, right? Uh,
Yeah.
and then turning them into this focal point for how you're going to literally save the universe for at least half of them and save a life for the other one.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. Um, what did you think of that last little quip at the end of the story, but not the book, where they're talking about how the red shirts maybe they're main characters in a different story about the red shirts.
Well, I mean, I think it was kind of the concept come full circle of like, hey, wait, if this existed in this realm, what's stopping it from existing on this like secondary meta realm of like, are we in a story? Am I now the main? Have I always been the main character? And I think that in a world where people have an issue with main character syndrome, having that level of introspection is kind of necessary of like, hey, like the stuff that's been going on with me, is it actually that I'm the main character, or is it that I just chose to interact with the story? That I chose to step away from a path that, you know, it's a weird thing to get caught up in because you, unlike the people in this book, we don't actually get an answer to that. And so the safe assumption should be that you're not. But what would it be like if you did have confirmation that some people are in fact the main character? you know, I mean, there's some people who could do with mulling over that philosophical concept, but uh, I thought it was kind of a cool addition of like, hey, if this premise does exist, do I have to now question everything that I am and have done? Like, mind blown.
I don't know. I think we're all main characters in our own story, and it's up to us to make
Mhm.
it an interesting enough story that other people want to care about it.
We all want to be main characters in our own story, but like, um, not to get too much into like stuff that's outside of this book, but there's this clip that I've seen on the internet before, Brendan Lee Mulligan talking about a day he spent in New York and how like stepping outside of where he was staying and just walking down the street, he saw like these incredible lives being lived, and he actually had to take a step back and say, hey, you know what, today I'm not the main character. And I think sometimes we have to say that, but like in this case, Dahl taking that step back was like, hey, today I was the main character. And I think being able to switch that on and off is important, because if you think you're the main character all the time, it gets just as easy to fall off the other end and be like, well, nobody else's story matters. Because you may think
Well,
you're making it interesting enough for other people, but like if you stop considering that other people might be the main character in a certain instance, it can go a little too far the other direction. I'm not saying that everybody does, but I do think you're right that it is up to you to make, when it is your turn, make it interesting enough for people to care.
I don't think being a main character means you have to be the spotlight 24/7.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, but there are some people who do way. I'm just saying that like that's the dream, is like being able to let go of the spotlight while understanding that you are a main character doesn't mean you're the main character in that specific moment every time. You know, like,
Yeah.
there can be multiple main characters in a book, and they can both have their times to shine. Like, that's a thing, but some people take it to that far extreme of like, "Well, I'm the main character of my own story, and the rest doesn't matter." And kind of what you get out of, who's the captain guy? Not like the actual captain, but the written version of him, you know?
Yeah.
Where he's just like, "God damn it, man, fire!" Just this is your time to die.
He should have known about the worms.
Yes, Captain Lucius Abernathy. But yeah, like when he's in that like loudmouth zone, that is the other far end of it. Like I get that that's just a written character, but there's people out there like that.
Yeah. All right. Final thoughts.
um, Overall, I I can see where like Scalzi has improved on some of his writing, because there are parts where this does get a little, like, the quick entry is nice, but there's other parts where it gets bogged down a little bit in ways that were not always the most fun to have to follow. but then has some really great moments as well, like conceptually, especially like you said, once we get that feeling of these two universes actually impacting each other in a significant way. And it's not just like a one-way thing that the other is trying to save itself from. Uh, no offense to Will Wheaton, but I'm still not the biggest fan of him as an audiobook reader. This did feel better than the last one, but maybe that's just because he's got more experience in this realm. But otherwise, pretty good book, fairly easy read, with a little bit of like thinking at a little bit of like philosophical uh, thought provocation at the end. So like I think it's a fun read for anybody who likes sci-fi at all, and like especially for those of us who know the meta of Star Trek type shows and that sort of thing. So worth a read, solid book.
Yeah, I liked the book. I thought it was pretty silly at times. Knew where to flex the feels and kept it humorous and light at other times. It was engaging throughout, and like you said, the little afterward stories were a nice addition that kind of sparked some deeper thought than the normal book was. Um, I don't think I'll necessarily ever return to this book, but I would recommend it. It was entertaining and worth the 6 or 7 hours in audio format.
Yeah, I agree. If it were too much longer, I'm not sure if I'd have the same recommendation of it, because like VS Drake said, it is very heavy on the meta, and you have to be okay with that. And at a certain point, if you get too meta for too long, it stops being a book and just should probably just be a book club conversation. Um, uh, Apparently VS Drake thought that was a overall okay book, not the fave, but not their fave, but not upset about reading it. And yeah, it's definitely not an every person book, and maybe even Trek fans might not like it because you might expect it to be a book that is much more adjacent to that and less of a commentary on the writing for those shows. So yeah, it may not be for everybody. It's something I would recommend, but I would tell people like go into it understanding that this is a fairly meta book. You'll probably get some chuckles out of it, and it's an interesting thought experiment with a decent storyline.
Yeah. Shall we talk about next books?
Yeah, next books.
All right. Next up on January 10th is Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinneman. A show favorite. I think I can say that.
Yeah.
Um,
Looking forward to sharing it and discussing it with you all come
definitely.
2026.
After that, we have February 7th, The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna, I think is how you say the name. I think, probably. Yeah, I haven't read that one. Looking forward to a new book. Yes, new.
Yep.
Yeah.
That should be fun. Also, our next category is going to be Ides of March. That is going to be political fantasy sci-fi type of books. So whether that is kingdoms or ancient republics, whatever it be, we're going to dive into the politics and fantasy and science fiction. So if you have any recommendations, you've probably got less than a day to send those in. And then uh, for April, we're just gonna go it's a free for all. Any recommendations you have for anything under the umbrella of the 800s?
Free for all, April.
Yep.
Good old rinse off. Shower us with all categories.
We're gonna April showers bringing
It's Mayflower, good conversation.
Thank you for completing that one because I definitely lost it partway through. Nicely done. And
Have you heard of
this is why he hosts, folks.
You have heard of romanticy, but have you heard of science friction? Is that like where you grind in space?
Well, considering the fact that just finished reading uh why am I blanking on it? You and I both read the same book. I was gonna talk side piece. I was gonna try
Project
to
Hail
transition.
Mary?
I was gonna try to transition to the side pieces and I lost it. Clearly, just yes, because I was thinking about the near re-entry into the planet that almost destroyed the ship because of science friction. Um,
All right. Hey, speaking
any
of side pieces, I read Project Hail Mary between last time and this time. It was fantastic. Highly recommend. Read that shit before the movie comes out.
Yep, I would agree. It was definitely my favorite side. It would have been my favorite side piece if not for the entirety of the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, which you guys will hopefully get. Well, you guys, gals, and days will get a chance to read with us. Hopefully, come the new year, and also, while not a book, if anybody loves the adventures of Jules Verne and Robinson Crusoe, and like those types of adventure books, highly recommend checking out Cloudward Ho by Dimension 20.
Hmm.
Very steampunk adventure, journey to the center of the earth type of vibes, only very unique at the same time. So I figured since we had been talking about doing some classics and stuff, which by the way will be a future category. So if you have some classics you like, start mulling them over. We'll announce when that will be the right time though.
Come the right time. 'Tis not this time.
Sorry about
All
that.
right. No, you're good. Hope you're okay.
Anywho,
Plugs?
yep, let's do our final plugs.
All right. We post these videos on YouTube. We're DM's Table on YouTube. Check us out. The link is below your video. Or you're watching us on YouTube and you don't need a link because you're already there. If you like audiobooks, might I suggest you check out Audible, Amazon's audiobook company. They are fantastic and release millions of books for your entertainment pleasure. If you would like to try Audible for free, head over to dmstable.com/audible and give us credit for sending you their way. If you would like to find out more about us, head over to dmstable.com, where we post all of these links and more. If you joined us for our pre-show, you probably heard some music. That was Fearless First by Incompetech. You should check out other options from Incompetech by going to incompetech.filmmusic.io. The music is not just great for book clubs before the show music, it is also great for D&D ambiance, any other sort of video ambiance, background tunes, just chillin' tunes, etc. We have a Patreon. You should check that out too. That's we are the DM's Table on Patreon. You can check out the link below your video to get to that page. We have socials, Facebook and X. We are at the DM's Table on Facebook and at DM's Table on X. Check us out there to stay in the know. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much all the plugs.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Delivered in high hilarity, I hope.
Nicely done. High five.
Well, thank you. And ambiance, yes.
Etc. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us on this very loopy end to the year. Thanks for reading with us this year, and we look forward to going through 2026 with you book by book.
Yes, thank you for joining us, guys. It was great. See you in 2026. Well, won't see you. Maybe we'll read you, but we won't see you. You'll see us. Yeah, you'll see us.
See you next book, everybody.